What's good, my lovely peoples? It's your main man Solace here. I want to do this quick video for y'all. I'm gonna try to make it short. I basically I need y'all to get into this universal knowledge. Y'all have to get out of this religion and all of this history stuff that y'all have, because I want to break down to y'all how all history, all religions, like the characters in the religions, and all the history, it all comes from white people. We have to understand perspective and understand history. So we got to grasp, even if you ancient Kemetic and you reach for the ancient Kem writings, when you read of or saw or said, hey, rule and all of this, is all white history and their gods. Peep knowledge, peep game. Don't get lost. Just follow me. Don't get upset. Let's just all open our heart and grasp something right quick. All history that we have and all religions we have come from Caucasians, white people. Now grasp this. In ancient Kem, you had the pre-dynastic period. This was before pharaohs. This is the period that's not really recorded. They was more into voodoo, or what we would call now voodoo, where they gave reference to all aspects of life. Tree, air, everything held its reverence, like how I be breaking things down, where everything of the life is life, and they understood the understandings. They understood the order, you could say, in the aspects of life. It wasn't no this God reigns over all, and they didn't believe in none of that type of stuff. Everything in the life was equal, and it was of goodness for the life. So it's no dominion. Then you get the early dynastic period. This is when you get pharaohs. This is when you get worship. And you get basically the god Amun. Amun-Ra. He would be the god of air. So this is when you get that whole system and you get a god. But they still into the voodoo. So it's not completely lost yet. Now you got to understand, once you hear pharaoh, this is when you talking about Egypt being invaded. So pre-dynastic was just ancient Kemetic people. Once you got a pharaoh, first dynasty, you pretty much talking invasions and systems being put into place. Now don't get lost, because ancient Kem was invaded by other African places first, before whites came into play. So when I say other things was influenced on ancient Kem, once you got the early dynasty, don't get lost. So you got pre-dynasty, none of that bullshit. More in the voodoo. Then you got the early dynastic period. Amun is put into place, basically, and you slowly starting to slip into a system. But the ancient Kemetic culture, the true culture, you starting to lose it once you get into the early dynastic period, where you get a pharaoh. This is where Amun-Ra comes into place, and you start to get the forming of the system. But this is only because when a place conquers another place, they mix and mingle in their history, or they'll put their history on that place and just change the names of their history so that the people of that place will grasp better. So it's like now, if someone came to you and said your God's name is Jesus, you wouldn't accept that. You like, what the fuck? Get away from me. Jesus is more acceptable to your ears. So, or Saw is more acceptable to their ears than, let's say, Odin. So you got to grasp. But this is how history works. So whoever wins war or wins the conquering rewrites the history of that place. So This is how you get that. So now you got to understand different people ruled in ancient Kemetic times. And most of the pharaohs you have more than likely were not natives of Kem. They were from somewhere else in Africa or somewhere else completely. See, you got to understand when Alexander the Great took over Kem, he put one of his peoples in rule as pharaoh over there. Ptolemy, I think his name was, or some shit. Patala, I don't know. But he put one of them motherfuckers in rule. So just because you had a pharaoh doesn't necessarily mean he was Kem. And just because you had a pharaoh of Kem doesn't necessarily mean he was even black or dark skinned. People don't grasp this. They think once you hear the word pharaoh, that means he was an ancient Egyptian and he was African. But that's not necessarily true. See, we got to understand 800 BC, the king of Egypt was Pi from Nubia. That's not an ancient Kem. So you got to grasp. And even before that, you had Hyksos and all types of people ruling in Egypt. So once you get past the pre-dynastic times and you get into the pharaoh times, you're getting into the invasion times. You're getting into the forming of the system. See, every time a place takes over that place, they put their influence and their history on it. So now when you get down to Akhenaten times, he replaced Amun-Ra. And this is where you start to completely lose the Vodou in the giving praise to all aspects of the life, whether it's the air, whatever, anything. It gets its reverence and its just due. When Akhenaten came into place, he pretty much threw away with all that Vodou and the lower spirits, and it was just one god, Aten, the sun disk. You just worship the sun, fuck everything else. That's life. It doesn't matter. So when you got to him, this is where you get to the first religion in system. And this is why they break up all Akhenaten shit and all of that. And Tutankhamun, they killed him. This is why all of that. Because they were always, the ancient Kemetic people, the natives, they never wanted to be a part of no system and no pharaoh type. That was not their thing. That's white people stuff. So it's just like the Native Americans now. They were the Native Americans in the slave times that happened this time. They wasn't into systems and all of that weird shit where you have a pharaoh or a president. They don't know about that. So they revolting against that. So it's the same now as it was then. They believed in nature in all aspects of life. And every time they got invaded, they slowly lost pieces of that Vodou, and it was replaced with the forming of the system and the religions, to the point where you get to Akhenaten and you don't got no more Vodou. You just got a religion and a system, which is worshiping Aten. And this is how you get to that point. So we got to grasp. It's a deep thing. This is why. So you figure an ancient Kemetic person may think like, okay, Christianity stole its history from ancient Kemetic stories. In the Greece or the Romans or whoever them people is that got like Thor, Odin, and Prometheus and all of these people, they stole their history from ancient Kem too. And this is why all the stories are the same. But that is not correct. The reason why ancient Kemetic story is so similar to Christianity and the ancient Greek or Rome shit is because those people took over that land, and that is their story in the wording and language of those people. So you figure or Sa or Set. These are Greek or Roman gods in their history and their story, placed upon the people of ancient Kem, but the names were of those people so they could grasp. It's just like if a white man took over ancient Egypt. One of the Caucasian race took over ancient Egypt, and then they became pharaoh. They changed their name to be likened to those peoples. so they could grasp and accept it. So you figure Assyrians, when they invaded Egypt, Assyrians don't have pharaohs. Persians, they took over Egypt. Persians don't have pharaohs in their system. Yet, when a Persian took over Egypt and one of them became pharaoh, they still they made their name like a motherfucking Egyptian. They still was referred to as a pharaoh, even though they normally don't live in that system. So what they did was put their history, their culture, their history on that place and just altered the name to the liking of the people. So when you read an ancient Kemetic history, it is truly Caucasian history that you're reading in the language and wording of those people. So Nut, Geb, all of this is the same as the ancient Greeks, Roman, the Christianity shit we got. They all the same for a reason. Jesus, Issa, Heru, all the same people for a reason, because white people conquered everywhere. And everywhere they conquered, they brought their history and their religion and their system to that place. The only thing they did with their religion and their history was give it names that the people of them places they conquered could grasp. So in ancient Kem, Jesus is Heru. Deep. When you get to our times, Heru becomes Jesus, because we understand that better than Heru. We don't speak in that word, so you gravitate away like, I ain't fucking African, I don't get that. So it's a deep thing you gotta grasp. It don't matter where you go in the life or the world for a religion or to read a history, it's already been altered by the people that took that place over, meaning it's white people history. And this is why it's all the same. It don't matter what religion or what history you read. They say, oh my God, it's so similar. They must have all seen the same things. No, they all got took over by the same people. And they put their history and their religion and their little immaculate conception story everywhere they went. So you got to grasp, around the time of Akhenaten, 1500 BC. You had Europeans living where they were living. You had people in Native America living where they were living. These is all different types of people, whether they're dark skinned or white, whatever. Australia. You got people there. You got people in Japan. You got people everywhere. They're different people. White people invade all these places. So you figure Kem was invaded before America by whites. So now Kem got the same story as the Assyrians. So now you got to grasp this. In 700 BC, the Assyrians invaded Egypt. Now this is Anu, Enki, Nibiru, the Enuma Elish, the Epic of Gilgamesh. This is all of that. These are those people in their history. Grasp Nibiru. When you speak of Nibiru and the Anunnaki, this is Assyrians' history. From Assyria. Now, when Assyrians invaded Egypt, now you got the same goddamn story. Grasp. In the times of Akhenaten, around 1500 BC, you didn't have all that bullshit. You had the worship of the sun disk. End of story in the system for the most part. You were slowly losing the voodoo. By the time you got to 700 BC with the Assyrians, the whole story changes. And it's also Set, Nephthys, and Seti. So you got to ask yourself, okay, how did that story come about? Because that's the same story from the Greek and Roman motherfuckers. And when they invaded Kim around 700 BC, they took that shit over, put their history on it, and just gave the names in that language. So it's a simple mindfuck. My history is my history. Everyone else has their own history. As I conquer the land, I bring my history and my system of religion there, but I make sure I put the name in their language, meaning I am Cheese the King. But over here, I am still Cheese the King, but they don't speak in that language, so I'm Queso. And over here I'm this, and over here I'm that, and over there I'm that. And you know everywhere I've been because the goddamn history and story is the same. I don't care if you're a Muslim, I don't care if you're a Christian, and I don't care if you read ancient Kemetic writings. Same story. Altered to the place. So Arabs got the Quran, and it's the same story as Christianity and Kemetic shit. It's just altered for that time in their language. So now Jesus is Issa, and so on and so forth, and whatever's not needed for that time is not added. Christianity, same story as ancient Kemetic, in its language for those people to grasp in their time. Ancient Kemetic writings, same as the Assyrian shit, grafted and altered for the ancient Kemetic people in their times. Now, if you go all the way back to the pre-dynastic times, before all of this invading and dumb shit happened, they was into netta, in the nature, in the aspect of all the life. And nothing was held in higher regards than this or that. And as motherfuckers started invading, you slowly started losing that. And certain gods was pulled forward and rose up above others. Oh no, this god is more important than that god, and so on and so forth. Because you get invasions and you get confusion. People telling the story two-sided. You don't know which is what. Got the white people story, you got worship netta and worship all aspects of the life in Vodou, and you confused, and then it's merged and mingled. And you slowly begin to lose the essence and truth of the people. So now when we so thirst to reach back and say, let's find some ancient writings, you dealing with European history. Because if you want to be truthful, ancient Kemetic people that understood the life didn't write. Anyone that understands the life, no, you don't have to write. All a person has to do is look and understand what they see. So what do you need to write for? But once you see writing, then you see brainwashing in a system. This is how life works. Read that. Takes you away from the life. Because now you forget how to look at life and learn and say, okay, I grasp how life works. It's a give and take. I put a seed in the earth will give me back. So I must give before I ask, and you learn all aspects of the life. Life is made in abundance. There is no one thing over another. There couldn't have been no one race that was first, because that is dominion, and the life doesn't work that way. You get abundance of things at once so that it can mix and mingle and be fruitful. This is what that means in the Bible. Multiply and be fruitful, meaning mix and mingle. Mix more of the life. Go on its own way to spread out. Be fruitful. So you got to grasp. So now when you reading your ancient Kemetic shit, or you reading your Bible or your Quran or whatever, you truly must grasp. That is white people history you're reading, with the name changed to fit the people. That is it. True ancient Kemetic writings isn't right. true ancient Kemetic way is not of pharaohs. That is like a president. It's the same system. White people have had the same system since their existence. They've been tweaking it and perfecting it as time goes on. So when they were in ancient Kem, you had pharaohs and shit. Then they slowly tweaked that into presidents and kings, and it just always gets tweaks. It went from pharaohs to kings, and as they got down into Native American times, where we at now, it same thing, just changing the names. Now it's president, and they making the system perfect over hundreds and thousands of years. Simple. You can grasp that. That's not hard to grasp. The people worshipped the life before, the mighty all. Then they got invaded, and every time they got invaded, they slowly lost some of that. White people always had the same system. Someone got to rule over the rest. Grasp that. Same system they've always had. Someone must rule over the rest, as opposed to equality. And this is why we live in the president system, government bullshit, because this is the same system that white people live and put upon the people of wherever they take over. Grasp that. So now when you talking Saul or said ancient Kemetic writings and all of this nut and gab, ain't nothing but a white person's history and story that was placed upon the people long ago. And this is why they kept fucking revolting. Egypt's always been a revolting, warring, invading place. Because the true natives of that land were never with none of that dumb shit from the beginning. Once you got to pharaohs in the early dynastic period, they wasn't with none of that. So you always had problems. And it's just like if you go to slavery now with the Native Americans. They wasn't into the system shit. So it's the same thing that happened in ancient Kem. It happened in ancient Native America, in the native times of America. The white people came here, invaded here, and they tried to place that system on these motherfuckers, and these motherfuckers wasn't into that dominion shit, where this motherfucker ruled over everybody. They had chiefs and shit. If you was the wisest motherfucker, you guided the people. You was the chief. You wasn't no special motherfucker over nobody. They may have treated you better because you was wise and you helped everybody the fuck out. But it wasn't on no dominion shit where you ruled over them and yo, you gotta do this, and it was everybody go out into the life and see. Mingle with the life, learn. This is how the natives live. I ain't gotta tell you shit, nigga. Open your goddamn eyes and look around you. Learn. Become one with the life. White people come over here with their system, the same way they did to ancient Kem, back in the Assyrian and Persian times. Came over with their stories of their gods. And this is how the ancient Kemetic people got out of voodoo with the lower spirits and the mighty all, and dealing with the lower spirits as a medium to get into the mighty all, and that's how you got out of that, and you got all the way to Aten, sun god, nobody else matters, to where you get down to Persian times, where you got a whole bunch of other shit, and then you get to our times, you got Jesus, Christianity, Islam, all of this shit, and it's all their history and their story, with the names changed for the people. So white people take over Saudi Arabia or wherever Arabs is at. And they say, oh, yeah, let's give them the same goddamn religion and story, but we'll just say the God's name is Allah, and the prophet is Muhammad, and Jesus could be Issa. Same story, just change the names for them so they can grasp better, you know. They don't like the kind of names we got. They know we took this shit over, so make sure the names is in their names. Same way we did with them motherfuckers in Kem. Gave them our religion and history, and just made sure we put it in their names so they wouldn't fuck around and know. Same shit, man. Motherfucker be white and a pharaoh back in the day. Grasp that. Shit is deep. So you must know, anywhere you go, history is Caucasian with a different name. So y'all truly need. This is why I say get out of those books. Through books and through television is how you brainwash a man. Meaning, the only way you can brainwash a man is to take truth away from him. If a man has truth, it doesn't matter what lies you tell him because he has truth. So that shit's not gonna never make sense. So in order to lie to a man, you must take truth from him and that access to it. So now how do you think you do that in the life? You write a book and you make TV. See, TV takes a man from the life because instead of going out to nature and looking at the animals, you turn to the animal planet where they can show you whatever they want. Instead of you looking in the life and looking at the land is altered and covered with cement and houses, and you are given a book that tells you what the history is. You're given a book to explain to you what life is and what the creator, which is God that rules over men, is. And this is how you disconnect the person from truth. Because now when you go outside, you don't know how to gain knowledge from looking at a bird or looking at grass grow or looking at a caterpillar or just seeing how the times change and understanding and how that correlates to a person. You don't know how to read that no more. You just know how to read a book because you was taught letters and wordings and how to write and all of this. So you hold it in high reverence because you learned. See the tricks? White people teach motherfucker how to read. Look, read. Now you smart. You better than the rest. Now motherfucker think he's special. Now the standard is learning how to read. And that is the shit that got men lost. The books. Must grasp that. The books was the way to getting lost. Because in the book, a man can tell you anything he wants. He can tell you God is this and he's coming back. And for some reason, you will believe it. Even though you don't know the man that wrote the book. You see how that works? It's a deep thing. You must grasp, man. Remove yourself from all this bullshit. And this ain't a jab at nobody that is in these religions. Or the teachers of these religions. Kemetic too. I'm not talking to the teachers. I'm talking to everybody. Y'all gotta get out of this. This shit is all white shit. And their history ain't got shit to do with us. So we need to truly start to grasp this. And get out of all of this old dominion. If it's a system, and this shit is similar to everything else, it's white shit. Let it be. Grasp universal knowledge. How to read the life. And you'll be alright. I don't care if a man is 28,000 years old. He was given the same things you had. Eyes and a brain and ears and the senses he needs to see and intermingle with the life to gain understanding and knowledge of the mighty all. Into everything. So you don't need to reach back for no ancient man to grasp what he knew to get understanding in that. All you must do is learn to come to the life and understand it. This is why land is important. Because when you have land, then you learn how to plant a seed and you understand the give and take process and you understand what true wealth is and the resources of all the things that men buys comes from the land in its natural form. And the knowledge of knowing how to mix and mingle and make those things is how you get the things men buy. And this is how the smart slave master motherfuckers get rich. They take over the land and then they make the slaves pick the cotton, which is the resources of it. And then they make shirts and all this shit and sell it to people. They sell it to the motherfuckers that pick the goddamn cotton. So we gotta grasp what Solace is saying. It's a deep thing, man. History, I better lose that shit, man, and get into this life, man. Universal knowledge with your main man, Solace. Oh boy.